Namaste and welcome to another video in the Skillful Living series. Today I want to talk about Bhakti Yoga, which is the path of devotion. We have in previous videos talked about Karma Yoga, the path of action, and Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge and understanding. So this is the third of the four paths that is shown to us in the Bhagavad Gita as a path to the divine, a path that brings us a peaceful and joyous life. We will come to the fourth path later. The Bhagavad Gita, as we know, is part of India's Vedic tradition. So Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, of love and devotion to the divine and indeed to all of creation. Now, devotion is a quality of the heart. It is an emotion. So this path is most accessible to people who tend to live largely through the heart, who focus on qualities of the heart. But it's open to everybody. It comes with a single-minded focus on the object of devotion, which in this case is the divine. It is a quality of love, of unconditional, wholehearted love for the divine. Whichever way you might want to define the divine, that's not so important. Whatever is your idea of God, of source, of cosmic energy, whatever you want to call it, that's all right. I'll just take a moment to describe the Bhagavad Gita's concept of God. So the Bhagavad Gita talks about Brahman as the one God. Usually this word is translated into English as the Godhead. In the Vedic and Hindu traditions, this one God has several manifestations. So you can connect with this one God through the manifestation, through the avatar that appeals most to you, that you find easiest to connect with. You could think of it as a visualization of God. And these visualizations come in both male and female forms. In the Bhagavad Gita, God is most often represented by Krishna, one of the manifestations of Brahman, the one God. Just a quick word of caution. Brahman is not to be confused with Brahma. Brahma is one of those manifestations. Brahma, the creator, you may have heard that phrase. But Brahman is the one God. So this is the concept of the Gita, the vision of the Gita. But, everybody has their own idea of God and the divine. Coming back to Bhakti Yoga, this path of devotion. Of course, the devotion is abiding. It is not a feeling that comes and goes, which means it requires also a sense of faith, of trust in the divine. I'm using the word divine, the divine or God, but you can use whatever word you like. With this single-minded focus and devotion to the divine, we slowly start to lose our attachment to our own selfish desires, and we start to see the divine everywhere, throughout the universe, in everyone we meet. Some spark of the divine, at least, in everything we see in the universe. So we begin to see also the connectedness of this universe, of humanity, but beyond just human beings, of all the beings and all the things of this universe. The other part of Bhakti Yoga is that it's a way of life. It's not just an attitude or a thought or a feeling. It's really the way you live, living with love for all of your fellow beings, for the whole universe, and acting with love as well. So everything that one does becomes something that is done with love as an offering to the divine. for some people, this path is very easy. It's sort of this devotion in the heart comes up very naturally. It springs up in the heart very easily for some people. But others who tend to live more in the head, in the mind or the intellect, might find karma yoga or jnana yoga an easier path to follow, which is fine. All paths are equally good. You cannot force yourself to feel devotion, so that's fine. If it's not happening, it's not happening. We might want to just leave ourselves open to this idea of this devotion arising within us. And why would we do that when all paths are equal? Even though the Bhagavad Gita says that all paths are equal, it does seem to indicate a little bit that somehow this particular path of devotion, of Bhakti Yoga, is sort of like an expressway, an express lane, which could get us to our goal a bit quicker. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, remember Krishna is a representation of God, says, "I look upon all creatures equally. None are less dear to me and none more dear. But those who worship me with all their heart live in me, and I come to life in them." This is a very powerful statement, a very powerful quote from the Gita. Krishna is saying, Krishna is God, that for those who truly walk this path of devotion, he seems to be saying that there is complete union. He comes alive in them and they live in him, not with him, but in him. So this is an extremely powerful quote from the Gita and shows us the power of Bhakti Yoga. Having said that, all paths are good. Whichever path works best for you, or a combination of paths, that's fine. Just go with it. Bhakti Yoga has given rise to a movement in India which is called the Bhakti movement. But I see echoes of Bhakti Yoga in other traditions, in other parts of the world as well. And because it's a quality of the heart, it's most often expressed in poetry, in song, or sometimes in prayer as well. So I'd like to end this video by reading out 2 poems and 1 prayer coming to us from different parts of the world. First, a short prayer by a short poem by Mirabai. I'm going to read this out because I haven't memorized it. So Mirabai is a mystic poetess from 16th century India. She wrote in Hindi or a dialect of Hindi. She's seen as the foremost proponent of the Bhakti movement in India. In this poem, which I'm about to read out, Meera refers both to herself and to Sham. Sham is another name for Krishna, so another reference to God, to the divine. I'm mad with love, and no one understands my plight. Only the wounded understand the agonies of the wounded, when fire rages in the heart. Only the jeweler knows the value of the jewel, not the one who lets it go. In pain I wandered from door to door, but could not find a doctor. Says Meera, hearken my master, Meera's pain will subside when Sham comes as the doctor. So this poem, like many others in this Bhakti tradition, focuses on love for the divine and also a longing to unite with the divine, which is common to many traditions which focus on devotion to the divine. The next poem that I want to read is by Jalaluddin Rumi, a 13th century Sufi poet who lived in Turkey and wrote in Persian. The Sufis are a mystic sect of Islam. They practice all the pillars of Islam and they seek also to have a direct experience of the divine. Incidentally, Rumi is the man who founded the Sufi order of the whirling dervishes, which some of you may be familiar with. Here's the poem. I wonder from these thousands of me's, which one am I? Listen to my cry, do not drown my voice. I am completely filled with the thought of you. Don't lay broken glass on my path. I will crush it into dust. I'm nothing, just a mirror in the palm of your hand, reflecting your kindness, your sadness, your anger. If you were a blade of grass or a tiny flower, I would pitch my tent in your shadow. Only your presence revives my withered heart. You are the candle that lights the whole world, and I am an empty vessel for your light. And now finally I would like to read out a prayer which is attributed to Saint Francis of Assisi, who lived in the 12th and 13th centuries in Italy and founded the Franciscan order of friars. It's not known for sure whether he really is the author of this prayer, but whoever wrote it, the prayer very beautifully expresses that idea of the divine working through a devotee. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And when there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. I'm going to leave it here today. Thank you for listening, and see you next week. Namaste.